I'm Sonja Larsen, and the name of the show is Images from Nature. Well, I was always interested in art, but I couldn't draw. Even though I felt very creative, I didn't feel like I could pursue it. Then as an adult, I saw a fish print, and I was really struck. This simple black and white fish print with the small seal chop on it. And I thought about it and thought about it. But it wasn't until we moved up to the Nisswa area, and of course fishing is what everybody does, and we became very ardent fisher people, my husband and I. And he caught a nice bass, a largemouth bass, which happens to be in the show. I direct printed it. He would tell people I made about 19 prints and finally got that print that I was happy with. And that started me printing. Then in the 80s, a Smithsonian site show started, and it came to the Bell Museum. And not only that, but there was a man from Santa Barbara who was coming out, and he was going to do one day of fish printing and one day of botanical printing. Well, that sounded really wonderful to me. So I went and I printed fish, but it was all direct printing. You ink the fish, put paper on it, and got a print. The botanicals intrigued me too. And he mentioned the Nature Printing Society. And, oh, well, that was interesting. And I pursued that. And they have annual workshops moving all over the country. So they had their workshop in Hawaii. I managed to go there, and they had a man from Japan who was a master printer there. So I could spend with them a whole week printing fish. And from there I switched to botanicals. This is bloodroot. And the leaf, to get that detail in the leaf, you have to print it fresh. If you press it, it presses the veins out and you don't get anything. So in order to get this plant, the flower is very delicate. It needs to be pressed and reinforced. And you can reinforce it by spraying it with Krylon or something like that, or just something that will stick to it. So first you print a lot of prints with just the leaf fresh. Later, much later, you print the flower to go with it. This is, a lot of people think all you have to do is ink it. No, it's a process. My neighbors are used to seeing me with a large children's book, thin book. Where's Waldo happens to be my book. And I have that under my arm, and I'm walking in the ditch by the road. Because weeds can be very beautiful if you just look at them and perceive them and print them. And I have printed a lot of weeds, and people go, oh, I never saw that before. That's one. Obviously with fish, it started with fish that we caught, and then certain people saw the prints and wanted me to print their trophy fish when they caught them. Well, I'm very jealous of watercolorists because they can take a small kit and they can go out in the field and they can do beautiful work. You have a lot of tools and you have a lot of preparation of the piece that you're going to work on. So it's bundlesome. You need area for pressing the plant. It's more of a combination of tools. Brayers, rollers, pushing. I hope to sensitize people to just looking at plants. When I do a workshop, a lot of the people tell me after the first day or two, I never noticed things like I'm noticing now. I look at leaves, I look at the underside of leaves, I look at just weeds and see objects that I just didn't recognize before. And it just sensitizes you to nature, I think. You talk about smelling the roses. Well, this is looking at the roses and feeling the roses. Right now, I'm much more interested in botanicals. If you've spent a couple days with a northern, you start smelling ammonia and you can't get the ammonia out of your nose. Botanicals smell a lot better than fish do after a couple days. And if you're going to do the Japanese style of printing, it takes almost a day just to prepare the fish. Then you put it in the refrigerator, bring it out, let it get a little bit warmer, and work with it. You may work with it for a couple days and do that. They are very patient and kind. They will explain to you the tools that you need, and most of the tools, aside from paper and ink, you make yourself. And if there have been instances with other teachers that they will make you spend a couple days just making the tools that ink the fish, that ink the paper on top of the fish. They also talk about the importance of the paper. It just doesn't work to try to do something with inferior or cheap paper. It's okay to print with student grade, but when you really want to work, you want the best paper you can get, and you want space. If you print a big fish and you don't have a lot of more paper around it, you don't have any ability to move it. When you put it in a frame, you don't want the fish to just look straight ahead. You want it to have some movement. So you need a lot of paper, a lot of air, and when you get to botanicals, you want to follow Japanese flower arranging techniques. You don't use 2 flowers, you use 3. Odd numbers, 2, and the word for 2 is ni, which is the middle of my name, so ni-ya. And that's bad luck. So you want a 3, 5, 7. The Nature Printing Society started in 1976 with 3 men. One was a Boy Scout leader from Pennsylvania who thought that he had invented printing leaves, and was a Boy Scout leader and had Scouts work, and it was helping the Scouts identify tree leaves. And when you think about it, a lot of kids need to physically touch and get the feel in order to understand this is an oak and that's another ash or something. So that was good. The other 2 were fish printers. Had their doctorate in some sort of fish identification and work, and they were from California. They collected some friends that printed and that they had taught, and eventually, since then, the organization is international. It has around 300 members, I think, and all over the world. But it's dedicated to nature printing and appreciation of nature. I've followed this organization since it first started in the Franklin Arts Building. And I had a small show there, which was in basically their reception room. I still have the picture of it. And I admire what they're doing, this idea of the second Saturday kits for kids. I just think it's terrific. And the workshops and everything that they have done to sponsor It's just a terrific organization, and I really admire it, and I've had my work here ever since. I discovered from another nature printer through the Nature Printing Society something called paper clay, where you can make an impression on this stuff that works like clay. It air dries very hard. I'm intrigued with impressing it with some plants. We'll see. I would encourage them to look at the website of the Nature Printing Society.